Hey guys, I'm Dov, and today I'm back with more Total War Warhammer 2 online action. This battle is dedicated to all of you who hate when I go Wood Elf missile heavy builds, which, you know, understandable. I tend to try and keep things within the tournament rule set, but certainly melee focused Wood Elves are a lot of fun. And since the Tree Men got some changes, I wanted to go ahead and have a look at them. We're going to be taking them against our beloved Empire today. Fittingly, an Empire city's burning in the background. Looks like these vengeful forest spirits have already been doing their work, but let's get to it. Ancient Tree Man now has armor-piercing damage, as he should. Primarily armor-piercing, that is. 280 AP with 120 regular weapon damage. Got magic damage, pretty decent combat stats, 100 armor. Also has expert charge defense. Blessing of the Ancients, which most, I believe all actually Wood Elf casters have. Get extra power recharge in the forest. He's also got Call of the Woods for that sweet +5 melee attack in an area of effect. Awakening of the Wood and Earthblood are going to be the spells I'm taking today for controlling heavy cavalry and healing. Got the Power Stone for some additional power recharge. Firebark Elders for the fire resistance. Tree Men and another unit of Treekin. Got a front line of Eternal Guards with shields, including the Winterheart Guards as the anchor on the right flank. We've got the Loex Tricksters, War Dancers with Azrai Spear. Regiment of Renown here. They're going to be supporting, kind of operating as a bit of a mobility type unit. Wardens of Kithral, Vanguard deployed up in the woods here. These guys are the Wildwood Rangers. Regiment of Renown have spears and shields. Also got some Sisters of Thorn, as well as a unit of Glade Riders. For my opponent, he's got Demigryph Knights, 2 units of Pistoliers. I think I'm starting to have an effect on the community, guys. Been seeing Pistoliers a lot more lately, which is awesome. They're definitely a solid unit overall. Over here in the main force, we've got Swordsmen for the front line, couple of Flagellants, couple of Mortars in a nice defensive position here, making great use of this terrain to kind of block this back flank quite well. Knights of the Blazing Sun, more Demigryph Knights, this time with Halberds. Balthazar Gelt, let's see there, yep. And he's got Searing Doom, Glittering Robe, Final Transmutation and Transmutation of Lead. Pretty heavy spell loadout, but I've been seeing more of Glittering Robe lately. I have to give that spell a shot for myself. Speaking of shots, was a little bit of a miss-micro here on my part. If you're on top of your micro, there's no reason why you should get hit by a mortar with a unit of light cavalry. Was not really paying attention there. I was actually shooting the artillery crew, not to really good effect, but over on the other side, the Sisters of Thorn getting tangled up with this mobility engagement. I'm trying to draw these guys in to the Wardens of Kithral, but my opponent won't really bite. I think he senses I have something hidden in the woods here, so I'm going to go ahead and just bring them out. Pop that Curse of Anraher and try and use the poison to just catch them with the Sisters of Thorn. Hold them in place long enough for the Wardens to get there. We'll see whether I'm successful in doing that or not. The Tree Man Death Star definitely advancing across the field, no question about that. Mortars are going to be starting to open up shots on the Wood Elf infantry here, so we'll watch as some of those shots land home. Pretty good damage on the Eternal Guards in the front line. Granted, this is the cheapest unit in my army, so I'm not that worried about it at the end of the day. We have plenty of healing, and the main sustained power is all in the trees here anyway. Meanwhile, over here, you can see Sisters of Thorn did get a bit tangled up with the Demigryph Knights. I'm going to go ahead and just countercharge into the Pistoliers, and then leave the Demigryph Knights to the fate of the Wardens here. My opponent right on top of his micro, pulling away at the last second. Very well played there. Not going to be too caught up by those Wardens of Kithral. We might get a couple of models caught up here. Yep, looks like that Sister of Thorn able to block up at least one model. They do drag one down, so a bit of give and take there, but trying to get these Glade Riders up and around. I've noticed the terrain was blocking this position here, and he had the Flagellants and Knights and other things, so I'm going to go ahead and use them instead to block the Pistoliers. Follow up with the Sisters and the Wardens, try and just force kind of a pitched engagement here. With the support of the Wardens of Kithral, I'm pretty confident I could win. Sisters are not feeling great, but we're going to go ahead and drop an Earthblood over here in just a moment. Meanwhile, the frontline engagement getting ready to go down here. You can see the Ancient Tree Men advancing across the field very cinematically. A couple of mortar shots come down. There's that Earthblood over there on the other side. And Sigmar's Sun's going to be charging in. We've got the trees to meet them. Of course, Sigmar's Suns are unbreakable, so they're not going to care too much about fighting the trees. The other state troops will eventually get terrified once their leadership gets low enough, of course, because of the terror that the Tree Men and the Ancient Tree Men cause. We've got the Loex Tricksters with the stock sweeping up and around. My intention was maybe to get up in the side here, but I really don't want them trading against Flagellants. Not the most cost-effective trade, so we're going to come up, try and get through this little gap right here in the terrain and the line, and come up and support the cavalry engagement, which, speaking of which, the Wardens of Kithral finally getting into the cavalry, you know, nice and saturated here, dragging down the Lance Demigryphs, and interesting pick by my opponent to bring the Lance Demis. I guess he was looking for the extra missile block chance that they provide, or maybe just didn't quite have enough funds to bring a second unit of halberds, but yeah, Knights of the Blazing Sun going to also follow up here. The Sisters of Thorn did drop, I believe, some of their support buffs in here as well, that Shield of Thorns. But Wardens of Kithral, very elite unit with their high melee defense especially, will be able to do okay. Despite their low armor, should be able to do some good damage there, dragging down those Demigryph Knights. Glittering Robe, though, up to 185 armor on those Demis. That is pretty serious. Balthazar coming through. Glade Riders are going to be routed off, as are the Sisters, but the Wardens still holding out. Getting charged from multiple directions, though, like this. Wood Elf Infantry does not do well at that, getting rear charged and so on. Did manage to sneak through the low Extrictors. I go ahead and pop a Awakening of the Wood a little bit late there. I actually did end up catching the Wardens, which is not great. My intention was to debuff the Cavs so I could catch them. The frontline engagement, though, with the Treeman Death Star is more or less going how you would expect. Swordsmen are slowly dying here. They are trading pretty cost-effectively with the Elves, but the Treemen in particular, and the Treekin, of course. Oh man, just absolute brutality as they're crushing these Empire State troops here. And especially over on this flank, things are getting a little bit weak. We're going to be able to push these Treekin through to the back line in just a moment here. The mortars continuing to fire away, though, look like they're going after the low Extrictors. A very good target, nice and high value. The Wardens of Kithral would also be a very good target. The Wardens actually have a little bit of a denser formation, so if you land a hit on them, you know, you'll hit more models, but because the lower Strixters have a looser formation, they have a wider footprint, so you're more likely to actually hit the unit in the first place. So a bit of give and take there, but Sisters of Thorn, again, anytime they rally, I'm just going to bring them back in here to debuff and slow down the Cav, you know, give them that poison and everything. Another Awakening of the Wood, slowing down these Knights of the Blazing Sun, so they can't come rear charge the line super effectively here. They are going to come land home a rear charge in just a moment, which is definitely what my opponent probably should have been doing up until now. Rather than trying to contest that Cav game, he needed to get 1 or 2 units of cavalry around and start rear charging this light elf infantry. Because the recipe of how to beat the Treeman Death Stars, you really have to get rid of the supporting infantry first. You can see the elf infantry all across the line here is pretty low. My opponent's done a reasonably good job here, but had he had some rear charges a little bit earlier on in the battle, might have been able to take out the infantry support a bit sooner. That being said, it's still pretty close battle. The Knights of the Blazing Sun, the Demigryph Knights, everyone moving in to try and goon the Treeman here. Treeman, of course, very tanky character, is taking some pretty solid damage. He's exhausted at this point. Looks like Balthazar is going to throw down a transmutation. Final transmutation? Yep. Just a regular final transmutation. Does some pretty good damage. Probably would have been better to cast right here to get the Treeman, the Ancient Treeman and the Treekin all together, but still, decent cast there. The Glade Riders had rallied. We brought them back around to interrupt the mortars, shut them down. Treekin are shutting down the other mortars, so Empire line starting to crumble a little bit here, but the Elves are definitely not faring well also. The Wardens of Kithral, really the only healthy infantry unit. Well, they were healthy until they took that Searing Doom to the face from Balthazar, but they're coming to support this main kind of Death Star engagement here as we try and hold off what's left the Empire forces. The Flagellants are definitely a worry at this point, so we're definitely going to have to try and keep things secure as much as possible. The Flagellants will get worn down over time by the trees. They really don't have the AP values to do much there, but they'll do great trading cost effectively with the Wood Elf infantry here, so yeah, a bit of give and take. We'll soak up some cinematics of the Wardens of Kithral duking it out here with the Treemen supporting. Flagellants trying to get through, but the Treemen relatively safe at this point. The cavalry has taken a lot of damage, and it's been more or less the focus of most of my micro has been taking down these units of cavalry. Of course, the Firebark Elders are very key, especially against the Empire, which has a lot of tools and ability to bring fire damage to the table. So this Wildfire Aura here, that 25% flame resistance, helps, you know, not only does it help the tree units, but it also helps the Wood Elf infantry even to be a bit more resistant to those Knights of the Blazing Sun. So definitely would pretty much always recommend them, even if you're not going with a tree build. In this matchup, Lore of Fire is incredibly common. Knights of the Blazing Sun and fire damage in general is just super common, so they might even be a decent pick in a non-tree type build, because of course, like I said, that affects the Wood Elf infantry as well. So Beautiful stuff. At this point, it's just a matter of time. Most of the major threats have been neutralized here, and the leadership of the Empire forces is not doing great. We are getting a little bit spread out here. You can see the two tree men getting separated from the Firebark Elders here. I'm going to go ahead and just force path them through those flagellants, try and reunify, make sure we keep everyone in range of that wildfire aura. There are still a few Knights of the Blazing Sun trolling around here, but Balthazar is kind of sitting back at the moment. Those Winterheart Guards holding up a whole bunch of rallied state troops here, which is great. We're going to bring these not rallied, but the Treekin who had been chasing the mortar off. We're going to bring them back around and rear charge that pocket in just a minute here, but yeah, we'll continue to soak up the march of the Ents here as they just mow down Empire state troops and flagellants alike. Sisters of Thorn regrouping here to kind of hold things up. Knights of the Blazing Sun sweeping up and around, trying to find a home to charge in, but anytime they charge in, I'm going to go ahead and respond. Just get all the heavy hitters. You can see they really, just can't do much to the trees with the wildfire aura and everything. Charge defense, the armor-piercing damage, especially now for the Treemen and the Treekin, does help them take down heavy cavalry more effectively, I feel. I do need to use this type of build in a few more matchups, maybe Bretonia, some of the other traditional heavy cavalry matchups that are a threat to the Wood Elves, but so far it definitely seems pretty good. I mean, it was already decent in the last patch, but giving the Treemen and the Ancient Treemen AP definitely helps, and I am personally a huge fan. You can see Balthazar personally right now is learning just how much AP the Treemen actually have. Probably a little bit more knowledge than he needed, but yeah, looks like Glittering Robe going down on those Demogryph Knights, trying to give them more armor, but again, extra armor piercing on the Treekin, definitely coming into play there. That won't matter as much, or sorry, not the Treekin, the Treemen. The Treekin still don't have the greatest AP values, which, I kind of understand. They are a very good defensive unit. Charge defense, if they had AP, they would basically be Crabs. Crabs have less unit models, and they also are more expensive as well, so, I mean, these guys are basically Crabs without the AP. They are a little bit cheaper to compensate. Of course, the Firebark Elders, same price as the regular Rotting Prometheans, have 70 melee defense, which is just incredible. They've got, the base fire resistance, lots of other excellent stats here, immune to psychology, that wildfire aura, decent melee attack. Their AP damage isn't great, but it's not absolutely awful. 18, which is it's something, but certainly they can help hold the line and give you a good defensive option for a faction which generally lacks it. You can see army losses have hit for the Empire, and at this point we just smash out the last flagellants, and that's going to be game. So well played to my opponent. Hope you guys enjoyed watching that one. Yeah, the Treemen Death Star definitely got a bit more powerful in this last patch with the AP for Treemen and for the Treemen and the Ancient Treemen. So you might see more builds utilizing them going forward. Certainly on this channel you will. I think in matchups where you're going to be facing a lot of heavy cavalry, this could potentially be the way to go. In terms of the army breakdown here, the Elites did mostly pretty well. The Lorx Tricksters kind of got blown up by mortars a little bit, but they were able to drag down some elite cavalry. Sisters of Thorn ended up being super cost effective. Just an excellent harass, skirmish type unit. You can bait your opponent into an unfavorable situation. They have the great support buffs and debuffs, great missile damage, just all around excellent unit. The Treemen both cleaning up quite a bit of work as well. 138 kills for the Firebark Elders, not bad at all, just messing with those state troops. 95 for the Wardens of Kithral, 86 for the Winterheart Guards, pretty good stuff, 75 on those Glade Riders. Decent all around. For the Empire here, the Flagellants, some of them did pretty decently there. 79 kills, XP Chevron, not bad at all. The Lance Demis and the regular Demis, unfortunately, with the Knights of the Blazing Sun, just didn't quite have enough in the tank to drive down the Ancient Treemen. It's a bit counterintuitive, but I think handgunners are honestly probably going to be the best way to deal with the Treemen and Treekin Death Star. It's kind of a counterintuitive pick because if your opponent goes with a heavy missile build, the guns are at a bit of a disadvantage against the long-range archers of the Wood Elves, because they have an arc of fire, whereas the handguns have to be direct line of fire, they have longer range, and so on. So it's definitely a bit of a risk-reward type scenario, but that's why I think this build can be decently effective. It's not something you want to use every single time, but it's definitely something that goes very much counter to what sort of people expect from the Wood Elves, which is definitely something that you can use to your benefit. My opponent really didn't have that much armor-piercing damage. Really, the Demogryph Knights were the only source of armor-piercing. In terms of Balthazar, he could have brought Plague of Rust, and that would have helped the non-armor-piercing troops deal damage to the treekin, but it only really affects one target, and with multiple, heavy targets, you can see the tree man, ancient tree man, almost got focused down, but the treekin and the other tree men still almost completely healthy. The treekin even have all their unit models still, so with so many large armored targets, only having one target for Plague of Rust, makes it less useful. It still would be useful, certainly, but again, it's tricky to plan for kind of a counter meta build like this. So hopefully you guys enjoyed watching this very melee-centric Wood Elves army. If you did enjoy, please be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button, so every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you next time.